Hello everyone and welcome to our unit on the elements of art. The elements of art are what artists use to make art. In fact, all artworks are made up of the elements of art. In this lesson, we're going to be covering the first element of art, which is line, and there's going to be an art lesson at the very end. Line is probably one of the most simple elements there are. In fact, it's one of the most simplest terms in art that there is. It's a line. It goes from point A to point B with a connection between the 2 points. Now, something that a lot of people don't know about line is there's actually 2 different types. The first type being a defined line, while the other type being an implied line. A defined line is a line that separates 2 objects. For instance, you have a defined line around the apple on the left, where a defined line is separating the foreground from the background. You see a distinct black line around the apple that tells your eye this is different from the background and the foreground. It separates 2 different areas. On the other hand, the apple on the right uses implied line. Even though you do not actually see a line around the apple, your eye can visually tell you that this is a highlight because there is an implied line that connects the other values and separates the background from the foreground, even though there's nothing that's actually there to define a separation. Now that we know the difference between a defined line and an implied line, let's look at some examples. So pause the video and I want you to count how many triangles you see in this artwork. Did you finish counting? The correct answer is 0. There are 0 triangles in this artwork. A triangle is made up of 3 lines and 3 corners, all 3 lines connected. There is no third line or third corner connecting any of these shapes. It is implied that the lines are there.
I don't get it.
Kind of like in this artwork. This artwork, whenever you look at it, you can see that it's a bunch of lines, but your eye may tell you that there's also 2 triangles inside of this artwork. That is from wherever the lines meet at a corner and create an implied line that creates a diamond, or actually 2 diamonds in this artwork. Now, this is a more advanced topic in art, but line placement and line thickness also plays a crucial role in creating artwork. So for instance, in this artwork, obviously it's a cat. We know it's a cat because of the way that the line is placed in the form of a cat. However, line thickness also plays a role. We understand a cat to have bushy tails, so the line for the tail in this artwork is a lot thicker than the lines for the ears because cats have very delicate, thin ears, or even the whiskers. If these 2 line thicknesses were swapped, this would no longer look like a cat. Instead, it would look more like a rat, because a rat and a cat have very similar structure, but the line will actually make one animal look more like the other. It is line placement and line thickness that creates the illusion that the paper is actually curving up and folding down like a weight. In actuality, this is just a flat piece of paper. Now, I do have students comment and say that there's shading on there and the shading adds to the illusion, and yes, that is true. The shading does add to the illusion, but the line thickness and placement is the majority of this illusion. Even if you take out the shading, you will still see a wave in the lines because when the lines get closer to the viewer, they get thicker. When they're further away, they get smaller. And that is the element of art known as line. So what is your all's lesson for today? This lesson actually takes 2 days. We are going to be creating our very own optical illusion using your hand. So this is a very simple project. I like to give it to my students as an introduction course. Basically, you are going to be tracing your hand. Then you are going to be taking a ruler and you're going to be drawing lines on there to create the illusion that your hand is coming up out of the paper. I'm going to be stepping you through this entire process, and we're going to have a tutorial video on this so you can pause it and watch along with it. First thing you're going to need, piece of paper. Second thing you're going to need, ruler. Third thing you're going to need, pencil. maybe not so aggressively. But you will need these. The first step in making this artwork, you are going to lay down your hand and you are going to trace it on the paper. Don't trace it down here and don't trace it like this. Try and make it take up the majority of the paper like this and trace your hand on there.
Wow.
The next step is to make tick marks on the left and right hand side of your paper. And yes, you do need it on the left and right hand side. You are going to want to make these tick marks every ½ inch. For those of you who do not know, from 0 to 1 is an inch. That means that this mark halfway in between is ½ an inch. So you want to make a mark with your paper starting here, make a mark there, make a mark at 1, make a mark at 1½ and keep on going down the ruler. If you did this correctly, you should have a total of 21 tick marks going down one side of your paper. Now you're going to take your ruler and do the exact same thing on the other side. And yes, it is very important that you make those tick marks on both sides. And the reason for that is because whenever you start drawing these lines, you're going to be connecting them by lining up the 2 points on either side. And if you don't have this lined up right, your lines are going to go everywhere and it's not going to give you the illusion you're looking for. Whenever you hold your ruler, make sure that you hold your ruler like this with space in the middle with your fingers spaced apart. Because if you hold the ruler off to the side like this, it's very easy to move this ruler and get it off center. However, if you put all your pressure in the middle of the ruler, you no longer can move it. So what you want to do, line up these lines and draw a line connecting them. You are going to draw these lines connecting until you get to your hand outline. Once you get to your hand outline, skip over your hand. So just pick up your pencil, move over, and then continue on. Now the next step is to bring this illusion up to the foreground. And how we're going to do that, you're going to go back over to your hand, and wherever these lines met at your hand outline, you're going to curve upwards like you are going around your fingers or your hand in the direction that it's curving. So it's curving up like this. You're going to make kind of like an upside down U or a curve or maybe a crescent moon shape, connecting those lines together. And you're going to continue that throughout the rest of the hand. Now the final step is to bring this illusion into the current space. And how you're going to do that, just a little bit of shading around one side of your hand. Okay, now I know that was quick example. I want you to know I did this artwork in a time frame of like 10 minutes.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. It's a bind and a knife.
You all are going to be having 2 full days to work on this. So my expectation for you is to do more than just this. And I don't mean quantity wise, I mean quality wise. Because in my class, if you have not learned this yet, or if I have not told you, I grade you based on one thing and one thing only, and that is your work ethic. The more you work on something, the better your grade is going to be. If you just try to hurry up and get this done in 10 minutes, yeah, it's possible. But you worked 10 minutes on something that should have took you 2 hours. You're not going to get a good grade for that. However, if you work on something really hard and if you try to make it as best as you can make it, but you don't get finished with it, you still get full credit. And that's how all my lessons work, and that's how they're going to work moving forward. If you'd like to color this, you can. If you want to shade it, you can. If you get finished with this and you're like, I don't have anything else to do on it, I think it's perfect, then you're going to start another one because I grade you based on your work ethic. I want to drill that home. I grade you based on your work ethic. Keep that in mind. Thank you all very much. Hope you enjoy the lesson. See you next time.